What's up, humble farmers? Taiki here. Today I want to talk about how I made over $1,500 in just 2 weeks on Polymarket and how you can make money on prediction markets while also farming the potential Polymarket airdrop. Polymarket is a prediction market that lets you bet real money on yes or no outcomes, such as will Bitcoin hit a specific price, will Ethereum hit $10,000, or will Jesus Christ return by the end of the year. And each share trades between 0 cents to 100 cents, and it represents the probability of all these outcomes happening. So for example, for this Jesus Christ market, the market is currently assigning roughly a 98% chance that he is not going to return. So hypothetically, if you were to spend $1,000 buying these no shares, you can do so for $980 or so. And if he doesn't return by the end of the year, then you will make $20 because it'll resolve from 98 cents to 100 cents. But if he does return, then you lose all your money, but at least we'll be witnessing history. I find prediction markets interesting because it lets the market dictate probabilities. It harnesses the wisdom of crowds, essentially meaning that if you let anyone participate and bet on these outcomes, you actually get closer to the truth than relying on traditional news media sources. And because it uses crypto rails, it lets anyone participate. So the market odds that you see on the website kind of reflects the collective belief and potential inside knowledge, which could be helpful when it comes to predicting things like war, politics, and I guess like market-related news. And from a trader perspective, I think Polymarket and prediction markets generally are very interesting because these markets are very, very inefficient. And inefficient markets means that there's a lot of opportunities to make money. So the market I recently bet big on was this market. And to give some background, Pump Fund is a meme coin launchpad that raised over $1 billion from the public, and they launched their token roughly July 10th. And this market was on like whether or not the Pump Fund team was going to airdrop its token, additional tokens by July 31st. So when I saw this market, I immediately wanted to bet against it. And to my surprise, the market set the probability of an airdrop happening by July 31st at roughly 35%, meaning that I could buy the no shares, right, at 65 cents. And if I'm right, it would resolve to $1, which would be roughly a 50% gain. And you can just use some common sense when it comes to these markets. So for example, the Pump Fund team, it was like a very anticipated token launch, and they launched the token on July 10th. Are they really gonna airdrop more tokens to the community 3 weeks after the token generation event, right? Because typically, when crypto teams drop a token, the airdrop happens when they launch the token. It's very rare for a team to just launch a token and then do the airdrop a few weeks later, right? Because why would they do that? It's not going to be good for the chart, right? Because then you introduce more supply. So I was like, yeah, this is free money, right? You can just pick up free money on the floor. So I was pounding the no shares between 65 and 75 cents because I thought the real odds of them airdropping was closer to 95 to 100%. So that's a clear market inefficiency, and I just started putting thousands of dollars into this market. So yeah, fortunately for me, these no shares just went from 70 to 98 cents overnight when the founder of Pump Fund went on some interview and mentioned that there's not going to be an airdrop anytime soon. So that was a free 40 to 50%, right? But you might be asking yourself, who's taking the other side? Or who the hell was buying the yes shares? And I think at least with Polymarket, because it's less regulated, there's a lot of unsophisticated capital just gambling, and they're literally just gambling, right? So if you really just use common sense, there's a lot of opportunities to make money, and it also helps for this particular market that because Pump Fund was top of mind for everyone, right? There's a lot of engagement farming that goes on Twitter, so there's all these fake accounts saying, oh, Pump Fund airdrop confirmed July 24th, right? And the founder of Pump Fund, for whatever reason, responded to this this post, and when this happened, the no shares that I was buying at 65 cents, it dumped to 50 cents, and I'm like, oh shit, am I totally off base here? And then yeah, a few days later, it's pew, right, 100%. So if you were paying attention, right, you could have bought these no shares at 50 cents, and then you got a 2x on your money in just a few days. So yeah, always know who your counterparty is, and always ask yourself why is the market wrong? I think that's the best way to make money on these markets. So yeah, I spent a few $1,000s on this particular market, and I got a 40 to 50% gain, right, across a bunch of wallets. I'll put some screenshots, but I think I use roughly 9 or 10 wallets farming this thing, or betting on this thing. I also bet on other markets, such as will Elon register the America Party by end of July? I bet no on that at 92 cents. Now it's trading 98 cents or something. I also bet on the World Series of Poker main event because I used to be a pro poker player, so I feel a good grasp on like the real odds of those like probabilities. And I also bet like on other pump fund markets, which I've made money on. And I think the best way to think about making money on prediction markets is, before you even look at the odds, ask yourself, okay, like there's this particular market. What do I think is like the actual probability of a particular event happening? Then you can look at the probabilities that the market has set and then ask yourself, is the market right or is the market wrong? And for this particular like pump fund market, right, because like that's where the majority of the P&L came from, you also have to read the fine print, right? Because for this airdrop market, there was like the caveat that said that if the airdrop happened with like an NFT or like a non-transferable token, right, then it would resolve to no, essentially meaning that, if there was like an airdrop claim on July 27th, let's say, but you couldn't trade a token or dump the token until August 1st, then I would like make money, right, because it would resolve to no. So with all that taken into account, right, it's like, why were people even buying this, right, at like 30, 40, 50 cents? But I guess like that's where the money comes from. And, given how, or if you just look at the pump fund token chart, right, I might be the only person that actually made money on this token, aside from insiders. So you might be asking, like, why did I use like so many wallets, right? Like, why not just bet stuff on one wallet? And there's a few reasons. First of all, I mean, if you're like a big whale account, it might make sense to spread it across different wallets because you don't want people to like copy trade you, right? But me, I'm not like that, right? Because I mean, a few $1,000s in the grand scheme of things, it's like not that much money, right? But like relative to like the amount of volume Polymarket has. And the reason I did this is to farm the Polymarket airdrop. So, Polymarket, they might not airdrop, right? Because they might take the IPO route, but if they do have a token, then they're probably going to be incentivizing early users of the platform. They raised so much money, they bought like an exchange in the US, they're trying to come back to the US, and their last raise was at roughly $1 billion, like the valuation. I honestly think that Polymarket should at least be worth 10, 20. I mean, I think prediction markets are going to like just go up only from here, right? I think the valuations are going to be like $1 billion is like fairly cheap. So let's say they end up being worth like 5 or 10 bill, right? Let's say, and they airdrop 10% of the supply to early users, then that's going to be like a 9-figure stimulus to people that used Polymarket. And of course, I'm using Polymarket not just to farm the airdrop, right? I'm using Polymarket because I think it's fairly easy to make money on that platform. So if you think about like making plus EV bets, right, decisions with like a positive expected value, if you just continue to use Polymarket across different wallets, then you also increase the implied EV of each bet because you might also be rewarded with a potential stimulus. And people call me the humble farmer because I farm a lot, right? For example, like Hyperliquid, right, which is like one of the killer applications, the cycle. I was like one of the first users of the platform. I started using it like roughly April of 2023. And even though I only put in a few $1,000s worth of volume, I made a $117,000 airdrop. Of course, there's like always these what ifs of like, what if I used it more? Like, what if I didn't sell too early, right? But the point is, in crypto, I think generally you want to use, or you want to use a chain, right? You want to be early into things because you could get rewarded. And it's also good to use things without any crazy high expectations, because if you just use things for the airdrop and you don't get a good one, then you're going to be pissed. So I just use good applications early before a lot of other people, and I just hope to get rewarded. If I do, cool. If I don't, it is what it is. And the reason I use different wallets is because of this thing called Sybil farming. So, I mean, the crypto teams are getting better to like prevent like this part. I mean, I'm not sure if it's like manipulation, but it's kind of extractive, right? Because basically by using 10 different wallets, I'm pretending to be 10 different people. And sometimes crypto teams, they reward smaller fish than like whales. So if I put in, let's say, $10,000 of volume across like 10 wallets, right? $10,000 each. Maybe that's going to get me more volume than putting in $100,000 worth of volume on a single wallet. And if it doesn't, then like whatever, right? I just wasted some time. But if it does give me like more money, then cool, right? Like, of course, it was worth doing it. So yeah, I mean, that's why people call me the humble farmer, right? In the crypto industry, the OG humble farmer, because I made a lot of money like employing this strategy. It used to work like really well in 2023, 2024. Now, not so much, right? Because teams are getting better detecting these things. But honestly, it doesn't cost me anything extra, right? It just takes more time doing this stuff. So that's kind of like the strategy that I employ for farming Polymarket. And also, right, like these markets are so illiquid that you don't really need crazy size to farm this thing, right? You can like bet a few $1,000s, few $100, you know, once or twice a month, and then you can probably over like the next 6 to 12 months, you know, put in some decent volume. And you don't have to like make crazy money, right? If you just put in 10K volume, make $100 or so, $200, whatever, then I would say that's a pretty high EV decision. So yeah, that's how I made a little over $1,500 in roughly 10 days or so, just, you know, using common sense, right? Just making high EV decisions. And who knows, like maybe, you know, you can do the same, and then let's say in 2026, you might get like a 5-figure, 6-figure, 7-figure drop if I'm lucky, right? Like I said, like it's better to have low expectations because in the grand scheme of things, like $1,000 of volume is like really not much, right? Relative to like how much historical volume Polymarket has done. But yeah, I'm gonna keep making bets on Polymarket. I'm farming other prediction markets, but you know, honestly, I think Polymarket is like the best one to farm. The smaller ones, you know, it's so illiquid that it's like barely usable. So yeah, if you enjoy this type of content, please let me know. I can make more, you know, prediction market stuff. If not, cool, right? But I think Polymarket, prediction markets, destined to grow 100x from here. So why not learn to use it, right? Educate yourself. You might get a stimulus from just like being a good prediction market better. If not, it is what it is. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. See you guys another time. Bye-bye.